Hello students, today let me discuss about the female reproductive system. In the previous class we discussed about the male reproductive system in detail. So today let me discuss the female reproductive system. Okay, now female reproductive system, these classes are meant for the exclusively for the NEET and as well as for the theory, but no question is going to be by these classes actually. In the sense, what I mean to say is every question you can able to be get answer, that much deep we are going to be get discuss here, right? Female reproductive system. In that, first, where is the location of female reproductive system in the female body? Okay, that will be the pelvic region, right? As in the previous class I have told you that male reproductive system and the female reproductive system both will be get present in the pelvic region, right? We know that our body is divided into three regions. One is the thoracic region, one is the abdominal region, and one will be the pelvic region. The female reproductive system is present in the pelvic region. This female reproductive system is divided into two parts, right? First one, calling it as, means the female reproductive system contains two major parts, considering it as a primary sex organs, as it is like as a male reproductive system what we discussed in the previous class. There is a primary sex organs, there also we discussed, and here also secondary sex organs or sexual organs, right? The primary sex organs are the organs, right? The primary sex organs are the organs which are the organs which produce gametes. The organs which produces gametes, right? What is a gamete? Here it can able to get produced ova actually, right? And the second is organs which produces sex hormones, right? Organs which produce the sex hormones like estrogen, right? Ovary, we are talking about the ovary majorly, the primary sex organ. The primary sex organ we are calling it as a ovary, right? Ovaries and ovary singular and as well as a plural. Okay, so the primary sex organ in the female reproductive system is the ovary. In that, the ovaries will organs or the organs which produces the gametes. We can call these ovaries as a gonads also, right? Gonads only able to be get produce the gametes, right? In the male reproductive system, the gonad will be the what here? Testis. In the female reproductive system, gonad will be the ovary, and there the gonad will produce a gamete called as sperm. Here the gonad will produce a gamete, calling it as the ova actually here, right? The hormones which will produces from these gonads are the estrogen, right? Next, progesterone, right? These two are the steroidal hormones. These two are the steroidal hormones. Other than this, it can also produce relaxin and inhibin. These are the proteinaceous hormones. We know that in the chemical coordination in the first year of topic, we'll discuss the peptide hormones or the proteinaceous hormones, right? Relaxin and as well as the inhibin, these are the proteinaceous hormones, right? These are generally able to be get produces or secreted from the gonad, calling it as a ovary here. This is a major function of the primary sex organ, calling it as a ovary. Now, let me discuss the secondary sex organ, right? What are the secondary sex organs? Previously, I have told you that secondary sex organs is nothing but those are the organs which can able to helpful to transport the gametes, right? Which is producing by the primary sex organ. So, they are helping, the secondary sex organs will helpful to the primary sex organs for the transport of the gametes actually. Now, these secondary sex organs are of two types. Sorry, there are three types. First one, calling it as accessory glands. Let me take the accessory ducts first. Accessory ducts. second one accessory glands, and the third one that is external genitalia. External genitalia. So now what are the accessory ducts actually here, right? What are the accessory ducts? The first one that is oviduct, the ducts which are helpful to transport the gamete, calling it as a ova, right? So those are the oviducts. Oviducts is also calling it as a fallopian tube, right? The second accessory duct is a uterus. Third will be the cervix. Fourth is a vagina. These are the accessory ducts of the female reproductive system. Accessory glands. NCERT has given only the one accessory gland, that is a mammary glands. Mammary glands or the accessory glands which are helpful for the, right, accessory, the word meaning itself helpful actually, right, which are helpful for the processes like as ovulation, fertilization, isn't it here? So for the fertilization we know that uterus is going to be fallopian tube is going to be helpful here, right, and mammary glands will be helpful for the secretion of the milk actually here. So the glands which are helpful for the process which is happening in the woman, we can call those are the accessory glands. So other than this mammary gland, we should have to remember the two more glands, like as one is the paraurethral gland. I'll show you in the diagrammatic manner where are these glands are located. Paraurethral gland, and one more calling it as a Bartholin's gland. Bartholin's gland, right? Paraurethral gland and Bartholin's gland, right? And the last one, right? And the last one, that is the external genitalia. Under the external genitalia, we are going to discuss about the vulva actually here, right? Uvula is different beta and vulva is different. Uvula is the structure which is located in the buccal cavity region, where it is extending the soft palate, right? So to form like as a small tongue actually. Small tongue is also calling it as a uvula. Here we are discussing it as a vulva actually here, right? Okay. Right, this is about the female reproductive system. The major basic thing, one is female reproductive system is divided into two parts, like as a primary sex organs and as well as a secondary sex organs here. Now let me go in detail about the each and every part of this female reproductive system in detail. One question also will not be get missed for sure, right? So next, first let me discuss about the ovary. Ovary, they are paired in the female body. They are almond shaped. They appears like as a almond shaped. Everyone knows that almond will be in the shape, right? That is a badam, isn't it? Sabko pata hai na, right? Badam, that is almond in shape. Okay. Next, they are the solid. No need to write the color of the ovary also here, right? They are present lateral sides of uterus in pelvic region, right? So if I take now, if this is a ovary, right? Okay, the length of the ovary, if we can say here now, right? The length of the ovary, if we can take now 2 to 4 centimeters. Then the width of the ovary, if I can take here 1 to 5 centimeters, right? The width of the ovary will be the 1 to 5 centimeters. The length will be the 2 to 4 centimeters will be there, right? So this is the ovary actually. If I just go with the here beta male reproductive system, if I see the structure pelvic region, however it is present here is, if I consider now this is a uterus, cervix region and the vaginal region, okay, and here fallopian tube will be present. This will be the fallopian tube, right? Now here we are discussing about the which part, that will be the ovaries, right? These are the ovaries here. Now listen here carefully. Here the questions are able to be get hit here, where the NCERT has given this point. I'll show in the NCERT also, right? So first, ovaries. They are the paired ovaries are present, which are in the almond shaped, where the solid actually here. They are present lateral side of the uterus, right, in the pelvic region. And this ovary is going to be get connected with the uterus, right? The ovaries is going to be get connected with the uterus. These structures which are connecting the ovary with the uterus, will call these are the ligaments actually here. These ligaments, this point has given in the NCERT. If you can you just go through with the NCERT lines, right? Okay, ligaments are there. What are these ligaments names actually, beta? That is the ovarian ligaments, right? Ovarian ligaments are the structures which are connecting both the ovaries with the uterus actually here. At the same time, this ovary has to be get connected with the pelvic wall. So backside of this one, there will be pelvic wall. For example, assume now this is a pelvic wall. I am the ovary here. I am the uterus here. No, these are the ovaries actually here, right? These ovaries need to be get connected with the pelvic wall also. That's a backside actually here. This is a body wall actually here, right? So these ovaries which are present, they are connected with the uterus with the help of the ovarian ligaments, and they need to be get connected with the pelvic wall also with the help of ligaments, calling it as suspensory ligaments. With the help of ligaments called as suspensory ligaments. Okay, now this ovary is surrounded with a folded membrane will be present, right? A double folded membrane will be present. The double folded membrane, that is a peritoneum membrane, we can say that double folded peritoneum membrane, we can call it as a mesovarium. We can call it as what? Mesovarium. So mesovarium is the peritoneal membrane which is a double folded surrounding to the ovary actually, which is protecting the ovary, we can say. This is the location of the ovary. Now this is the external structure of the ovary, we can say here now, right beta? Now remember here the NCERT has given this point here, okay, it's an NCERT point. NCERT has not given the name of the ligament. I have given you the name of the ligament, that is the ovarian ligament, which is connecting the ovary plus with the uterus actually here, okay. Now let me discuss the internal structure of the ovary actually. If I see the internal structure of the ovary, right, if this is the ovary here, okay, the opening region of this ovary, right, we'll call the opening region of this ovary as a hilum, okay. Now the outermost layer of this ovary, right, the outermost layer of the ovary will have a visceral peritoneum will be present. Visceral peritoneum. I am not drawing this, I mean not writing with this the labeling of this visceral peritoneum because NCERT has not given, but remember that there will be visceral peritoneum will be present, right? And next there will be a second one, calling it as germinal epithelium. Whatever I am drawing here now, the second, not second actually, it's the first thing, right? The outermost layer of the ovary is made up of with the germinal epithelium. This is the germinal epithelium, which are in the cuboidal shaped cells, right? This is a germinal epithelium, right? So this is a calling it as germinal epithelium. Germinal epithelium is the epithelium which is made up of with the cuboidal cells, right, which is made up of with the cuboidal cells, right. We can also call as female germ cells. We can consider this is a female germ cells, okay. Next, second one, inside to that there will be a one more dense connective tissue will be present, right? Inside to that there will be a one more dense connective tissue will be present. This dense connective tissue we are calling it as a tunica albuginea. The second layer calling it as tunica albuginea. Have you remembered the same word heard we somewhere else in the male reproductive system? Tunica albuginea, that's also a dense connective tissue. Clear this part? But it is a thin actually here, right? So this one will be the thin, right? So this will be the thin dense connective tissue. It is made up of, that is a tunica albuginea here. Okay, right? Now inside to that, whatever the space is present, remember here beta, you will get confused again here, no? NCERT lines, total space which is present inside the ovary, we'll call it as a ovarian stroma. Total space we will call it as a what? Ovarian stroma. Okay, it contains the ovarian fluid. This ovarian stroma is again divides into as a two parts, right? Like as in the middle, it will be having like this, in the middle, two parts it is divided, right? This is calling it as a peripheral side. This is a peripheral side. This part we will call it as a ovarian cortex. Lateral side or the peripheral side, we will call it as a ovarian cortex. This is all totally calling it as a ovarian cortex. Okay, now in the middle, whatever the area is present, this total area, right? This total area, we are calling this total area as a what here? This total area, we are considering it as a ovarian medulla. This region we are calling it as a ovarian medulla, right? So my intention is only to remember the points of NCERT with the help of diagrammatic manner. Generally orally we will say continuously, that doesn't matter that to remember the things. When you visualize the things here, easily you will remember. That is what I am trying to with the help of diagram to remember the every point of NCERT. Okay, ovarian cortex, and this will be the ovarian medulla. Okay ma. Now ovarian cortex is the region where the oogenesis process is going to be get happen, right? Where the oogenesis process will happen. Oogenesis process is nothing but formation of the ova, right? That process in the next lecture we will discuss the oogenesis process and spermatogenesis process in detail there also with the same help of the diagrams, right? With the neat label diagrams. And this ovarian cortex is the place where the oogenesis process will happen. Ovarian medulla is a region where the blood vessels will be present, which will be entering into the ovary here, right? And then some of sort of nerves will be present here. Blood vessels will be present and nerves also will be present, and it is contains the elastic fibers. Okay, let me write it in a proper way, right? It contains the blood vessels and nerves, and it contains the elastic fibers, right? And it is made up of with the smooth muscle. Of course, as it is an internal organ, it is made up of with the smooth muscle. Okay, this is the internal structure of the ovary, right? So I am revising the points about the ovary. Actually, in the previously we had discussed that external structure, right? Ovary is located in the lateral sides of the uterus, right? In the pelvic region, those are the paired actually, which are in the almond shape here, solid grayish pinkish in color, it will be present here now. And the length of the ovary, if you can say 2 to 4 centimeters will be there, and the width of the ovary will be the 1 to 5 centimeters width will be there. And this ovary will be connected to the uterus by ligaments called as what ligaments? Ovarian ligaments. And this ovary will be connected with the pelvic wall, the backside wall, whatever the body wall is present, that will be get connected by the ligaments called as suspensory ligaments. When I go with the internal structure of the ovary, each ovary is majorly made up of with the 2 layers. Actually in 3 layers, NCERT has not given this outermost layer, calling it as a visceral peritoneum, right? So germinal epithelium, that is the germinal epithelium is the epithelium which is made up of with the cuboidal cells, right? Which we can also consider each cell as a female germ cell actually here. Okay, that's what it will able to get produce a oogonia actually. And inner to that here, inner to that, this is the inner one beta. Inner to that there will be a tunica albuginea which is made up of with a dense connective tissue, which is a thin layer actually here, right? That is a tunica albuginea. Inner to that, whatever the total space is present, we'll call it as a ovarian stroma. In this ovarian stroma is going to be get divided into 2 parts again based upon their function, right? The lateral side, the peripheral side will be the considering it as a ovarian cortex, and in the middle, whatever the region is present, we'll call it as a ovarian medulla here. Am I clear these points here? Okay, right? Now the central part we can consider it as a ovarian medulla. Clear these points here? Now let me discuss in detail about the oogenesis process. We'll discuss in the next class, right? Now the next part. Now if you can see here, we completed with this part beta, ovary part we completed. Now I'm moving on to the next part, calling it as a fallopian tube, right? Until now we completed with the primary sex organ, the structure of the ovary we completed, right? It will produce as a gamete and as well as a hormones. Now we are moving on to the secondary sex organ, that is the accessory ducts. Now I'm talking first about the oviduct actually, that is also calling it as a uterus. Okay, now look at here carefully. This is a fallopian tube. Fallopian tube. Consider now here the ovary is located. Consider now here the uterus is located. This is the uterus. Okay. Now we are talking about the fallopian tube here now. Fallopian tube also calling it as, right? Fallopian tube also called as oviduct, also called as uterine duct also, right? Fallopian tube also called as oviduct and the uterine duct. They are also paired will be present. They are paired will be present, right? The length of this, right? The total length of this fallopian tube will be the 10 to 12 centimeters. We are discussing about the one fallopian tube. It will be the paired fallopian tube this side and as well as this side also. Fallopian tube is also calling it as oviduct, which is a secondary sex organ, which is the accessory duct to transport the ova actually, and this is a length of this one will be the 10 to 12 centimeters will be there. Same like as a trachea beta. Trachea length is also nearly 10 to 12 centimeters will be present in the first one here, right? I am discussing about the first one, this part beta, this part, this total part we are calling it as a infundibulum, right? This total part we are calling it as infundibulum. I think so we can't write here. Let me write in the next page, right? First part calling it as a infundibulum. Infundibulum. Infundibulum is a funnel shaped part of the fallopian tube where it contains a finger-like projections. Finger-like projections called fimbrillae, or a finger-like projections called as fimbriae. Okay, next. This infundibulum, when it is entered, it contains a one aperture calling it as a ostium, right? It contains a one aperture, opening aperture calling it as a ostium, right? And next if I talk here, and this is totally lined with pseudo stratified simple columnar ciliated glandular epithelium. Actually this short form we will write it in this way, PSSCCGE, right? Pseudo stratified simple columnar ciliated glandular epithelium. Not only the infundibulum beta, every part of this one here. Now look at here carefully, right? So total fallopian tube is lined with the, like in this way, pseudo stratified columnar epithelium is in this way, right? So it's a columnar cells beta. You know that how the columnar cells will be present, right? These are the ciliated like this, right? Pseudo stratified columnar like this. So assume, imagine that I can't draw totally here now. Imagine in that way. Okay. Total fallopian tube is lined with the what is the thing here now? Pseudo stratified simple columnar ciliated epithelium, glandular epithelium. Now this is the first part calling it as a infundibulum. So these are the finger-like structures calling it as a what here? Fimbriae. These are the finger-like structures calling it as a fimbriae or fimbrillae. It is also ciliated beta. It is also ciliated. What is the major function of this finger-like projections calling it as a fimbriae actually? It will just catch up the ovary when the ova is going to be get released from the, as we know that in the here the ova is going to be get released, right? The ovary will releases the ova by the process calling it as a ovulation. We know that here the cortex will be there, here the medulla will be there. From the cortex region, the ova will be get released. This process of releasing of ova from the ovary into the fallopian tube, we will call it as a what here now? Ovulation. That the release of ova from the ovary into the fallopian tube, we will call it as a ovulation. The main function of the fimbrillae or the fimbriae is acting like as a just wicket keeper. Generally, you know that in the cricket, wicket keepers will be present in the backside to catch the ball actually here. Like in the same way, here also the fimbriae will be acts like as a wicket keeper actually to catch the ova whenever the ovary is going to do the ovulation, right? So now whatever the ova is now just taken up by the fimbrillae, because of this movements of the cilia beta, it will just make this ova to be get moved into the next part of the fallopian, next part of the infundibulum, right? Actually here there will be one opening aperture will be present. This opening aperture name we are calling it as a what here now? Ostium. Right, we are calling it as a ostium, right? We are calling it as a ostium beta. In the animal kingdom, we will discuss the ostia and osculum also. Osculum is an excellent pore, ostia is an inhalant pore. Here we are talking it as a ostium. See the difference, ostia, osculum, and here ostium. Okay, got the three difference right here. Okay, so ostium, it's aperture where the ova will be get moving here now, right? Because of the ciliary movement which is happening inside the fallopian tube, right? All here the cilia will be present, right? This is about the infundibulum beta. Infundibulum is a region, is a first part which is near to the ovary here, right? Infundibulum is the first part of the fallopian tube which is near to the ovary here now. It is in the funnel shaped structure. They will be having a finger like projections calling it as a fimbriae. There will be having a opening aperture calling it as ostium will be present here now, right? And after that the next part, now you can see the next part actually here, this part, this portion up to here, this total portion, right? Up to here, this is the second part, right? This is a second part. This second part we are calling it as a what here now? Ampulla, right? The second part, the second part we'll call it as a ampulla. Ampulla is the long, wider, curved tube of fallopian tube, curved part of the fallopian tube, right? So ampulla is a long and the wider will be present and the curved will be present. You can see here, right? See, from here to up to here it is located, that too it is a curved like this, and it is a wider also beta, right? It is a wider also here. So ampulla is a part where the wider and the curved and the long also will be present actually here, okay? And this is a place where the fertilization is going to be happen, right? Fertilization is going to be happen. That is a place actually here. Nearly 2/3 of the fallopian tube is made up of with the ampulla actually here. So this is the exact location where the fertilization is going to be get happen here. This is a location because it is a wider actually, you know. So as it is a wider, there is a place for the having the fertilization of the sperm and as well as over here, right? So wider and the curved and the longer part calling it as an ampulla actually here, okay? Right, now the third part beta, now you can see here now third part, this is the third part actually, right? This is the third part calling it as a isthmus. This is the third part calling it as a isthmus, right? If I write about the isthmus points here now, right? Isthmus is a narrow, short or thin tube where the cleavage process can be happen. Have you remembered the cleavage process here now? We discussed in the first lecture of this topics actually here. That is the division of the zygote actually here, right? Cleavage process will happen. The first lecture, if you can see, will understand what is exactly the cleavage process, right? And it is the part attached to uterus or enters into the uterus. Attached to uterus and enters into the uterus. Clear these points, ma? Right? The first part is a infundibulum, second part is a ampulla, and third part is a isthmus here. Every part of the fallopian tube we discuss in detail here now. Right? I am revising the points of the fallopian tube again here now. Fallopian tube is also calling it as a oviduct, or also calling it as a uterine duct also here. There the paired will be present. The length of the fallopian tube will be the 10 to 12 centimeters will be there. And this fallopian tube is divided into three regions, three parts actually here. The part which is very near to the ovary is the infundibulum. Infundibulum is a funnel shaped structure, right, which is at the end of this funnel shaped structure will have a finger like projections. These finger like projections called as fimbriae actually here, which is acts like as a wicket keeper to catch the ova when the ovary is going to get released actually. After this fimbriae here, there will be an opening aperture will be present, calling it as ostium, where the movement of the ova will happen through that actually here. This is about the infundibulum. And then second part calling it as, it leads into the second part calling it as a ampulla. Ampulla is a wider part and it's a curved part beta, and it's a longest part. Nearly 2/3 part of the fallopian tube is having with the ampulla region. That is the longest part we can say. That's why the fertilization is going to be happen in the fallopian tube here now, right? And after the ampulla region, the next part that is a very near to the uterus, which is opens into the uterus, right? Which opens into the uterus, that part we will call it as a isthmus, which is a narrow, which is a thin and the short tube actually, which will opens into the uterus. This is a place where the cleavage is going to be happen, because the fertilization will happen here, right, Nana? Right? The ectopic pregnancy. This word you should remember. Ectopic pregnancy. What do you mean by ectopic pregnancy actually? Ectopic pregnancy is nothing but the implantation other than the uterus, right? Implantation. What do you mean by implantation, ma? What do you mean by implantation, students? That is attachment of the blastocyst to the endometrium layer of the uterus, right? That implantation, whatever is happening here, implantation other than uterus, right? Other than uterus. Other than uterus means it may happen in the fallopian tube. Mostly it will happen in the fallopian tube, right? Mostly it will happen in the fallopian tube. Mostly it will happen in the fallopian tube. Alright, means the implantation, if it is happen in the fallopian tube, right? If implantation, if it is happen in the fallopian tube here, can the baby able to be get developed in this region here? No, no, the baby cannot able to be get developed. That type of pregnancy, we will call it as a what here? No, ectopic pregnancy. Every point which can asked, which can be asked by the NTA, or which has asked already by the NTA, we are discussing. Every topic I am adding a lot of new points here, beta. Right? Ectopic pregnancy, there is an implantation other than the uterus. It could be a cervix, it could be a fallopian tube, right? So cervix or fallopian tube other than the uterus, that pregnancy we will call it as a ectopic pregnancy, right? Now we have completed with the fallopian tube also. Okay, ovary completed, fallopian tube completed. Now we are moving on to the uterus, the third part here, right? So this one completed, this is completed, sorry, it is not completed, right? Okay, so this ovary is completed, oviduct is completed. Now we are moving on to the uterus actually here, right? Then organ. It's a hollow, muscular, inverted shaped organ, right? And we can consider it as a reverse triangular shaped or the pear shaped organ also here. So now let me discuss about in detail about this organ here. So let me discuss one more point here. No, this uterus is present between, this was a question beta, present between urinary bladder plus rectum of the female body, right? So this point has shown in the NCERT in the diagrammatic manner. In another video I'll just show you the diagrammatic manner, how I'm telling you this point actually. It is present between the urinary bladder and as well as the rectum. So now let me discuss about the uterus in detail. If I consider now this is a uterus, right? If this is a uterus, uterus is divided into three parts, right? Uterus is majorly divides into as a three parts. The first upper part, this region, right? The first upper part, this region, we are calling it as a fundus. The first upper part calling it as a fundus, right? This is a upper dome shaped part of a uterus, right? Upper dome shaped part of a uterus or the region of the uterus. The second one, right? This region where I am just showing you here, this region, this region will consider it as a body cavity of a uterus. Body cavity of a uterus, the second part. Okay, now the third region, right? Third region, this region where the fallopian tube is entering into the uterus, the region where the fallopian tubes are entering into the uterus, that region we are calling it as a cornua. That region of a uterus we are calling it as a cornua. Majorly the uterus is made up of with the three parts actually, three regions actually here, right? One is the upper portion, that is a fundus region, which is the upper dome shaped here, and the main body cavity, this is a region where the fetus will get developed actually. The development of the fetus will happen in this region, in the body cavity, and the ends of this uterus where the fallopian tube is entering, these regions we will call it as a cornua. Like that, uterus is divided into three regions actually. Okay, ma. Next, uterus is NCERT points. Now we are discussing about the NCERT points. Uterus is lined with the three layers actually, three walls actually here. The first outermost wall, right? So first outermost wall, which I am just drawing over here, right? The first outermost wall, this one. This wall will be considering it as a, the first outermost wall, considering it as a perimetrium, right? Considering it as a what here? A perimetrium. The outermost wall of a uterus, which is calling it as a perimetrium. The metrium, the word itself is using it for the uterus, right? Uterus, peri, the word meaning is the outer, right? Perimetrium. The outermost layer or the wall of a uterus, will call it as a perimetrium. And this perimetrium is thin, it is a thin outer covering actually, right? Now the second layer beta, second layer. The second layer, calling it as the second layer, this one which I am drawing here now, this layer, right? Calling it as myometrium. The second layer, calling it as myometrium. Metrium, the word meaning itself the uterus, okay, myo, that is a middle. So the middle layer of the middle wall of the uterus will be calling it as a myometrium, right? And this will be the thick beta. This is important. This will be the thick, which is made up of with the smooth muscle, which is made up of with the smooth muscle fibers will be present, right? Which this layer itself is helpful for the contractions and relaxations at the time of the delivery condition, isn't it here? At the time of parturition condition, the smooth muscle, there is a myometrium which is present here. This contractions and relaxation, because of the help of a hormone calling it as a oxytocin, this is only helpful for contractions and relaxation to deliver the baby actually here. So the inner one, right? The inner layer, calling it as here, this is the inner layer, right? This is the inner layer of the uterus. The inner layer of the uterus, considering it as endometrium. Endometrium. Endo, the word meaning itself inner, metrium is nothing but uterus, means there is a inner wall of the uterus, we will call it as a endometrium. About the endometrium we should discuss in detail actually. Let me discuss here now, right? So the first thing, uterus is lined with the three layers. One is a perimetrium, and second one is a myometrium, and third one will be the what here now? Endometrium here. Three layers will be present. Now let me discuss about the endometrium here. So let me add upon one more. So if I consider now this is a endometrium layer beta, right? Assume now this is a endometrium layer. This is a endometrium layer. Assume in this way. Now this endometrium layer is also made up of with the two layers actually, right? So assume now this is the outermost layer of the endometrium layer, right? So this layer beta, this layer we are calling it as a stratum functionalis actually. Stratum functionalis, right? This one calling it as stratum, this is calling it as stratum basilis which is present towards the myometrium layer. Assume now here the myometrium layer is present. Okay, here the myometrium layer is present. This is towards the uterus. Here the uterus is present, beta. Here the uterus is present here now. Okay, so lining of uterus will be having the endometrium layer. Endometrium layer is divided into two portions. That is the first one, calling it as a stratum, basilis, and the next layer. Right, the next layer, all this is the thing, right? So whatever this thing is present, this is calling it as a second one. The second one, calling it as stratum functionalis layer. This is the second one, calling it as stratum functionalis layer. Ma'am, these points is not there in the NCERT. Stratum functionalis layer. Ma'am, these points is not there in the NCERT, then why we are discussing? This is very important to be get discussed better. Stratum basilis is a layer, that's a constant layer. That's a constant layer, right? No shedding will happen. No shedding of this layer will happen. It will be the permanent layer. But the stratum functionalis layer is a layer where the blood vessels will be present here now, right? Where the blood vessels will be present here now, right? Where the blood vessels is present here. This is a layer where every month we are going to be get slug off actually, or the shedding of actually, for the process calling it as a period layer. That is my intention to tell you here, right? So in the sense here, whatever the stratum functionalis basilis layer and the functionalis layer will be present, functionalis layer every month it is going to be get shed off and it is coming out of the body as a periods actually, not the stratum basilis layer, right? This endometrium layer is a glandular also, beta, right? It is a glandular. As we know that in the menstrual cycle we'll discuss that. So endometrium layer is forming because of the hormones, calling it as a estrogen actually here. The hormone estrogen is helpful to proliferate this endometrium layer, or the formation of this endometrium layer that will be get maintained by the progesterone actually here. So it is a glandular layer actually, which is made up of with the blood vessels, right? Which is made up of with the blood vessels. These points you should remember. Okay, these are the major things what you have to get remember about the uterus first basically beta. Uterus is also calling it as a womb, or also calling it as a hysteria or the mitra here now. This uterus is a hollow muscular organ which is made up of with the smooth muscle, right? And this is inverted in shape, or the pear shaped, or the reverse triangular shaped. The uterus is present between the urinary bladder and the rectum. This point I'll show you in the line by line NCERT series actually. There through the NCERT I'll show you this point, right? And the uterus is divided into three regions. One is the fundus region, which is the upper dome shaped region, and second one is the body cavity where the fetus development will be happening here, and third one is a carno where the ends of the uterus where the fallopian tube is entering actually here. Okay, now this uterus is totally made up of or lined with the three walls actually. The first one calling it as a perimetrium. The peri word meaning itself outer, metrium, outer wall of the uterus, we will calling it as a perimetrium. Actually, if you can say better, this is a fold of peritoneum membrane actually, right? This is a fold of peritoneum membrane. This is a fold of peritoneum membrane, but NCERT is not going in detail, but simple basic things you should know it here now, right? This is a very thin will be present. Okay, second layer calling it as a myometrium, which is a middle one, which is a thick layer actually here now, which is made up of with the maximum smooth muscle, where this myometrium layer contractions and relaxations only helpful for the parturition process, that is the delivery of the baby. This myometrium layer, as it is a smooth muscle, it will be get contracted because of the secretion of the hormone called as oxytocin actually, that we will discuss in the parturition process in detail. And inner one calling it as a endometrium, that is the inner wall actually here, which is a glandular, and this endometrium layer will be having a two parts. I told you stratum basilis will be there, which is towards the myometrium layer. Stratum functionalis will be there, which is towards the uterus, and this stratum functionalis is a layer where every month it is going to be get shed off, and the blood vessels and the blood which is present here, it will just shed off out of our body as a periods. It will be coming coming out of the body as a periods actually. So stratum basilis layer will never be get shed off, but it's a base actually. The name itself, it is stating stratum basilis. It's a base. Upon this base only, every month this stratum functionans layer will be reforming and regenerating, and it will be shedding off actually. That will be continuously will be happening here. Okay. Next, now let me discuss this uterus part better. Now we will discuss about the cervix actually here, right? The next part we are discussing about the cervix. Cervix region. This cervix is a small, narrow, right? So small, narrow. Let me show you here. If this is a fundus, if this is a uterus, body region. Now we are discussing about the cervix. Assume now this is a cervix. Okay. Assume now this yellow colored body what I have drawn here. This is a, I am just drawing a little bit bigger to make it to understand easily. It's a cervix region here now. Okay. Now this is cervix. It is in the cylindrical in shape, and it is a small and the narrow, which is arising from the body of the uterus, right? And it is around the 2.5 centimeters length will be present, right? The length of the cervix will be the 2.5 centimeters will be present, and the major function of the cervix better, right? The major function of the cervix. The major function of the cervix will be that is secretion of mucus, right? Secretion of mucus inside to the cervix beta. Inside to that cervix there will be a one canal will be present, right? We'll call this canal name as a cervical canal. We'll call this canal name as a cervical canal. This cervical canal is going to be have a two openings actually here, right? Here the one opening will be present, and here the one more opening will be present, right? These openings name we are calling it as a, this is internal OS, just like as a valve like structure which will be opening. OS is nothing but considered as a orifice beta. Orifice, and this one we are calling it as a external orifice, right? External orifice. Internal orifice is opening towards the uterus. External opening is orifice is opening towards the vagina. Now here the next part will be the vagina will be present, right? The next part will be the vagina. Assume no, the cervix, it's a small and a narrow, and which is in the cylindrical shape, which is made up of with the smooth muscle, right? And majorly the length of the cervix will be 2 to 5 centimeters will be there. Inside to that cervix there will be one canal, calling it as a cervical canal. This cervical canal will have two openings will be there, internal OS and as well as the external OS. Internal OS is towards the uterus, external OS is towards the vagina here. Am I clear these points here, right? And this cervix is also glandular in nature will be present. As it is a glandular only, it can able to secrete the mucus also better. Glandular it will be there. We are not discussing that what is a epithelium is lining to the cervix and everything. Just remember that here this layer will secrete lot of mucus actually here, right? Lot of mucus secretions will be happen. In the reproductive health we will discuss this point here. Mucus secretions will be get happen here. Okay ma? So I think so every point of this one we discussed here now. Remember one more extra point, very important point for the NEET here. So make a what I can say, make a how many star marks also if you wanna, because that much important this point here is. Now I am writing here estrogen. Estrogen hormone makes cervix thin, and progesterone hormone. These points we'll discuss again in the reproductive health method. That one only I'm just making you to be understand here itself. By that you will remember. These are the important points actually. Progesterone makes cervix layer thick, right? Makes cervix layer thick actually here. Clear this point? Why this is going to become thick and why it is going to become the thin? Because the secretion of the sperm, because the insemination, when it is going to get happen, the movement of the sperm, right? If the sperm movement should not able to get happen. Have you remembered in the reproductive health we'll discuss one line like as this progesterone or maybe the IUDs will make the hostile environment to the sperm actually here. So if the mucus will become very thick here beta, right, because of the progesterone, then the sperm movement will not able to get happen here. If the estrogen is secreting, the cervix will become very thin where the easily the sperm movement will be happen here. So this is the mucus secretions actually here because of the mucus secretions. Clear these points here, right? Every point of the cervix region we completed here now. Now we are moving on to the next part, calling it as a vagina actually here. Remember here itself, vagina plus cervix canal, right? Cervical canal plus vagina together, cervical canal plus vagina together, this portion, right, we are calling it as a birth canal, right? Cervical canal plus vagina together, we'll call it as a birth canal, where the baby development, if it is completed here now, fetus development, if it is completed here now, so this fetus will be get delivered out of the mother's womb through this cervical canal out of the body actually. So this is the way how we can remember the cervix and as well as this one. These points are very important here now. Okay, now let me discuss about the next one, calling it as a vagina, right? So uterus is completed, cervix is completed, and now the next part we are discussing about the vagina. Vagina, it is a non-glandular, it's a non-glandular, highly vascular, copulatory organ of female, right? Then it opens from cervical canal, that is internal OS or external OS here, from the external OS, right? From the external OS, it opens into the vagina actually here, right? So here the point important beta, I am writing the major functions of this vagina, major functions. First one, remember this one here, major function of the vagina we can say. Next we will discuss the structure of this vagina. There is the external genitalia, whatever the vulva region will be present here, right? The first thing, the first function of this one here is receiving the male penis, that's what we are calling it as it's a copulatory organ during the copulation. During the copulation. The second one, allowing the menstrual flow, Third one, serving as a birth canal, right? The major three functions of the vagina beta, you can look it here now. Here is the this is the vagina actually. It will receive the penis into this region to insert to do the insemination process, and whatever the menstrual flow will be happening here now, that will go out of the vagina, and even the it also acts like as a what here now, birth canal, right? These are the points of this vagina we can consider here. Now let me discuss about the external genitalia here, right? External genitalia. Also, external genitalia, considering it as a vulva region, also considering it as a pudendum. This external genitalia, it contains a different parts actually beta, right? The external genitalia, that is the vulva region, or also considering it as a pudendum, it contains a group of parts will be present that we are discussing. Consider now here this is a female region. Okay, there will be one space, calling it as vestibule. It contains the two openings. First let me complete this one diagram. Right, now we'll discuss about the external genitalia, calling it as a vulva or also calling it as a pudendum. See beta, whatever the space we have here now, right, whatever the space we have here in this region, so observe it carefully. Here this is important point where NCERT has not given, but MCQs will ask you here. Whatever this space totally, let me draw it. Okay, this space totally beta, this space, I think so, let me draw it totally. So this total space, we'll call it as vestibule. Right, this total space, we'll call it as vestibule. In this vestibule region, we have two openings are present, right? In this vestibule region, we have two openings are present. The first upper opening, right? The first upper opening, we are calling it as a urethral opening. Urethral opening will be present, right? The second one, calling it as the second one, that is a vaginal opening. Here it will be the vaginal opening will be present. Two openings, two ports will be present in the vestibule region here. One is a urethral opening, which is attached to, which is coming from the, which is opening from the, which is opening from the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder, and this is opening from the uterus. As we know that in the female body, we will be having a three openings will be there. One is a urethral opening, one is a vaginal opening, and here we will be having the anus beta, right? This is calling it as a anus. Anus is opening from the where? From the rectum, that is a large intestine actually here, right? So anus is a place where the feces is going to be come here. Urethral opening is a place where the urine is going to be excrete, and vaginal opening is a place where the menstrual cycle, that is periods or maybe the baby delivery is going to be happen from the vaginal opening. Actually three openings will be present in the female body actually. Clear these points here? Okay, now to the above this vestibule space, right? Remember this one, vestibule is nothing but a space or a cavity, right? A space or a cavity which is present in the external genital region. That vestibule region containing of the two major openings, there is a vaginal opening and urethral opening here now, right? Now above this vestibule region there will be some space is present beta, right? This space, this total space which is a cushion like structure we can consider, right? Which is the anterior portion which is majorly cushion of fatty tissue, which is majorly the cushion of fatty tissue, right? Cushion of fatty tissue. This region will call it as a mons pubis, right? Above this vestibule region there will be a cushion of fatty tissue will be present where the hairs are present beta. Kaun se hair these are? Very important, these are the pubic hair. I hope so you know these points that we have a axial hair and as well as a pubic hair. Axial hair is nothing but the hair which is under the arms, we'll call it as a axial hair. The hair which is present near the genital regions, we'll call it as a which hair? Pubic hair actually. Here all the hairs will be present, right? So all this hair will be considering it as a what here now? Pubic hair. Now to the lateral sides of this vestibule region, there will be some fleshy muscular folds will be present. There will be some fleshy muscular folds will be present, right? That one, first one, right? First one, calling it as labia majora. Labia majora, the first fleshy fold, right? So it's a large, NCERT has given this word beta, you will get confused that which is a small and which is a large. So the labia majora, majora means major, outer side it is present, large fleshy fold of a skin which is the outer one, calling it as a labia majora here. Okay, this labia majora also having with the hairs beta. Which hairs these are here? Pubic hair, right? Also having with the hairs, calling it as a pubic hair. Okay, now the next one here, let me take this one, right? The next one, that is a labia minora, which is the smaller folds towards the inner side. Look at this point here, which is smaller folds towards the inner side. This is also skin folds, but they are all the skin folds only. Just generally we will know that the foldings of the skins will be present here na? Like in the same way, this is the second one, calling it as labia minora. Labia minora, right? This is a small fleshy folds which are the inner one actually. No pubic hair will be present. No pubic hair will be present, but it contains the sweat glands. It contains the sweat glands. Mostly the girls will able to get related this point actually here. When we are sitting for a longer period on bench or maybe on the chairs or anything, we'll just get sweated near this vaginal region or the vulva region actually. That is because of this sweat glands which is present in the labia minora. As we are sitting it for a longer period of time, the secretion of this sweat will be happen from this, but here the pubic hair is absent beta. These are the fleshy folds actually here. Okay, and the next one, after that we have to discuss about the clitoris actually. Above this urethral opening beta, in between the labia minora, this was a question by the NTA beta, look at here carefully. This is labia minora. Okay, let me take the right. So labia minora here. In between the labia minora, there is a P-shaped or the button-shaped muscular structure is present, calling it as a clitoris. Calling it as what? Clitoris. Got it here now? Present between the labia minora. Question of NTA, please remember this one here. Clitoris is a button shaped or the P-shaped muscular organ which is present between the folds of labia minora actually. Actually, this clitoris is a very tiny beta, very tiny, very small will be present here, and of course it will be in a cylindrical in shape, and it is erectile in function actually here, right? For the female body to get the sexual feelings or the sexual desire, this will act like as a erectile for them actually here. There is a clitoris here. Okay, so I think so we discussed the every point over here, right? vestibule region, and one more. Here only let me discuss with the glands of the female reproductive system. NCERT has given the male reproductive system glands, that is 3 types of glands, seminal vesicles and as well as a bulbourethral gland, and also calling it as a prostate gland, right? Like in the same way, here in the female body also, mammary gland only has NCERT has given, remaining 2 more glands will be there. I'll show you here itself better. In the starting of this lecture, I have told you that paraurethral gland and as well as a Bartholin's gland will be present. Paraurethral gland, where they are present here. Look at here carefully better. Paraurethral gland, the para, the word meaning it's outside, urethral means around the urethral opening here. So here, so there will be lot of small glands will be present like this. Okay, around the urethral opening there will be a glands will be present, calling it as paraurethral glands, right? So there will be the many will be present beta, right? Paraurethral glands, many will be present around this urethral opening. There will be this paraurethral glands will be present, right? Now around the vagina actually here, so around the vagina here, 1 gland will be there, here 1 gland will be there, only 2 glands will be there, that we are calling it as a Bartholin's gland, Bartholin's gland, right? They are the 2 will be present around the vaginal opening. Actually this Bartholin's gland, whatever is present here, right, this is a Bartholin's gland and these are calling it as a paraurethral glands. Actually this Bartholin's gland is a gland where it will be secreting some fluid, just like as it to provide the lubrication to the vagina at the time of copulation actually, because where we have discussed in the bulbourethral gland in the male body, that will provide the lubrication, that is a corpus gland beta. Like in the same way, Bartholin's gland also will secrete some mucus which is providing a lubrication for the vagina at the time of the copulation actually. And paraurethral glands or the glands which is around the urethral opening actually here, which is helpful for the protection. Of course it will secrete the mucus better, which is helpful for the protection from the external environment actually. This is about the external genitalia or the vulva, or the also calling it as a pudendum here. Okay, so let me check any more points we forgot. Yes, here one more point, that is in the urethral opening we have a one transparent layer. I'm sorry, not urethral opening, vaginal opening, we have a one transparent layer will be present, right? So on this vaginal region will be having some transparent layer, that we are calling it as a hymen. That we are calling it as a what? Hymen. Hymen is a thin transparent membrane. Hymen is a thin transparent membrane. It's a folded one, and remember it was an NTA question again, it is a partially covering the vaginal opening, not fully beta, because if this is a vagina here now, if there is a this hymen layer, if it is totally closed here now, the menstrual bleeding also cannot able to be come out of the body actually. So it's partially, here some and here some, isn't it here? So did you understand? If I am the vaginal opening here, here the some hymen layer and here the some hymen, partially it is covering, there will be some gap beta. That is the reason how the menstrual cycle will come out of the body, but this can be able to be get breakdown at the time of the first copulation actually. We used to think that hymen is a one of the virginity deciding factor also we used to say in the previously, but now we are not deciding that hymen is not going to be get represent the virginity of a female actually here, because the hymen can able to be get breakdown whenever you are doing the jogging or whenever you are doing the riding or horse riding or cycling or anything. So or if you can keep the vaginal tampon also. NCERT has used this word, but a vaginal tampon. Vaginal tampon is nothing but it's a cotton plug which is inserting into the vagina to collect the menstrual periods, to collect the menstrual blood. External genitalia. Now we will discuss one more very important point, right, where you will find the most of the time in the MCQs these points, right? Female and the male, which are the homologous to them actually. Ovaries are homologous to the testes in the male, as we know that here it will, these are the gonads we can say here, right? Ovaries and the testes are the gonads where they can able to produce the gametes. Okay, here the ova and there the sperm, right? And the labia majora, which is present in the female body, will be the which is homologous to scrotum in the male. Labia minora is homologous to foreskin in the male. That is a prepuce actually here. Have you remembered glans part? The enlarged glans part of the penis will be having some loosely folded skin, calling it as a foreskin. Clitoris is homologous to penis, which will show the erectile in function. Paraurethral gland, which is paraurethral gland, is present towards the, surrounding to the urethral opening actually. Bartholin's gland is present towards the or surrounding to the vaginal opening here. Paraurethral gland is homologous to prostate gland. Bartholin's gland is homologous to bulbourethral gland here. These are the very important points what you have to get remember. Okay, now we completed with the female reproductive system in detail actually, right? Now next class we will discuss about the mammary gland in detail, which is very important. Every point until now whatever they asked